Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I got my friend Isabel here, and we're just going to go ahead and jump right into talking about child development and the milestones and pretty much why you shouldn't compare them, because something that I've realized as a first-time mom is that literally, I mean, I'm guilty of it too, but that's like the number one thing like moms ask you, like, oh, like, has she rolled over yet, or has he
Are they
smiled yet?
walking yet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And I personally don't get offended, but I know that a lot of moms do get offended by that, or they'll say something about it later. And I think it's all in good fun, like, oh, like, that's fun. It's like a fun part of having a
Right.
baby.
Like it's like a conversation starter.
Mhm.
Like they don't know
Mhm.
what to say. So they're like, oh, are they doing this, that, and the other yet?
And then you're like, I don't know, should they be?
No.
No,
Are
why?
they supposed to?
He hasn't started walking yet. Yeah, he's a week old.
No food?
Yeah. Go ahead and put cereal in their bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. But I feel like that is like something that I've seen you see a lot in the beginning, and even now that he's 5 months old, it just gets, now that things are like multiplying, like the things that he should be doing, it's just getting a lot more.
Right.
And it's almost like, I don't want to use this word, but because I feel like it's already overused, but I feel like it can be kind of toxic, that environment and the thought process that goes along with it. And it's really dangerous. I saw this quote that said, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's so true, especially as a first time mom. And I'm sure you can agree, maybe as a second time mom too, because like instead of just enjoying what your kid is doing, you're stressing out about what they're not doing.
Yeah. I knew when with Tatum, sometimes I'll like go back through my pictures and see like what Emerson was doing at 4 months old, and like realizing that maybe Tatum's not doing that yet. I'll be scrolling. I'm like finding the videos. I know she was rolling over at 4 months, and here Tatum is 4.5 months and just lays there and looks at you. And I'm like,
I just want to get it off my chest that Van cannot roll over. I had to get that off my chest.
shoot.
I know some of y'all's kids was rolling over at 1 week. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Not mine.
Nope.
Okay. He rolled over one time on the day he turned 5 months old, just to like get us off his back, because
Yeah.
Nick was
He's
about to
probably
check him in to like
yeah.
PT or some shit.
Yeah. He's like, Mom, I got it. I just don't want to do it.
Exactly. In that same week, he started to sit up on his own. Now he can sit up on his own pretty much unassisted, but every now and then, when he gets tired, he'll just kind of fall over.
Yeah.
But I had to get that off my chest. Van cannot roll over. And I think they said, what, at 6 months, you need to like, call 911. So we're getting up there to 6 months.
We're getting there.
Personally, I just don't feel like anything's wrong with him. I feel like he'll roll over eventually. I know he can do it, so I'm not stressing about it.
Right. Just like he came when he wanted to come, like as far as delivery, same thing. He's gonna roll over when he feels like rolling over. That's with like all babies. I feel like people put this weird pressure on like babies to do it, and they're just like, no, I don't want to.
It's just like,
go ahead.
it's just like not a one size fits all approach.
Right.
Literally nothing is a one size fits all approach, yet we still try to like put this mold on so many things. And definitely putting on our child, like, why would, like, I don't know, why would we all do stuff at the same time? Like, it just really doesn't make sense in a range. Just like due dates, like, what do they say? You're 36 weeks, your baby can be born. Is that what they say now? Up till 42 weeks. Well, that's like a month range. So why are we telling people that like, oh, by 6 months your baby should be growing over? Well, they can be born in a month range, so they could do stuff in a month. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like the comparison here.
Right. And that's like the other thing too, back to like us moms, like trusting your instinct, you're gonna know if there's something wrong with your baby. But just because, like, I know with Tatum, she's not rolling over yet, but she like can look at you, she smiles, she reaches for toys, her hands are in her mouth, she's doing other things that are like right on track to where she should be. And she's, you know, I so there's not any concern just because she's not rolling over. And I also, back to like when your child, yeah, they could be not crawling yet, but then once they start crawling, if they are late in that, they're like 3 weeks later, then they're up and walking. So they just kind of like skip things. And so it's kind of like, don't really stress if your child isn't doing something, because they could just take a big leap and just like go right through it and start doing other shit.
I think when you said that, it reminded me of something that my friend said. And she said that babies can like, they'll do things like, some will do them mentally first and then some will do them physically first. So when she was at my house, she was watching Van like play with his toys, like with this wheel that he was like playing with, and he had like a little topper toy that he was actually like, he plays with his toys. If you just lay him on the mat, he'll just be like, start whining because he wants something to play with. Where
Right.
other babies will just kind of lay there, like Tatum, like you said, she'll just kind of lay there and just smile and be fine. Right. Well, Van wants toys, but then, you know, he's not doing the physical stuff necessarily as fast as other babies, but my boy will engage, you know?
Yeah.
He's gonna play with those toys. He has so many toys. Yeah. So it's like, that made sense what she said, because she was actually really impressed. She's like, wow, he's playing with the toys. And, you know, her child had rolled over by this point already. So it kind of made me feel a little bit better. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I act like I don't care that he's not rolling over, but maybe I do, because I'm asking other moms, oh, like, when did she roll over? How did that go down? Because I just, you know, you want them. It's not a race, but like, there's pressure. Like, you definitely feel like you definitely feel like that competition almost. And I wish I could be honest and act like we don't have that, but we do. And I'm just gonna, you know, that's why I had to get the
that's why my baby's better than yours. Okay.
Seriously.
When I wanted to ask something about go ahead, but I do have a question, but I forget what it is.
I think also when we're talking about like mentally and physically, like babies hitting those, you know, milestones or developmentally, we should think about also their due date. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because so many babies these days are being induced and being born early for whatever reason, whether it's choice or, you know, necessary. But that definitely, to me, plays a factor in how soon they're going to do things. So I have a friend that had twins. We were due a month apart. So, you know, Van was due on Halloween. So we were due a month apart, and she had her babies in July. So that's like, you know, 2 months early for her. So yeah, they're 8 months old, but, you know, they're right around the same developmental mark as Van. They can roll over a lot better than him, but the two babies, and they're a little bit smaller than him because they're twins and they were premature, but they're like around the same. So it's like, you know, take that into consideration when we're talking about when your baby meets these, you know, milestones. Like Van was born a week late. So he looked like more like a baby, if that makes sense. Yeah. Is that a weird thing to say?
No, because that's what I was going to say. When Emerson was born, she was born a week late too. And I just remember as a newborn, she was like awake, not awake more, but like compared to Tatum, when we brought Tatum home and Tatum was at like 39 in 5 days, Tatum like slept all the time. She was so calm, but she just like feed her and sleep. And I remember like telling Mark, like, I don't remember Emerson sleeping this much. Like, I know it's a normal thing for babies to sleep, but but I was like, I don't remember Emerson being that way, but it kind of makes sense because Emerson was, I guess, older when she was born. So
I think people will say, well, I've literally seen women say this, and I'm not saying it's a general agreement, but I have literally seen women say there's no point in them being in there past 36 weeks. And it's like, that's brain development. That is literally brain development. Yes, your baby can be born 36 weeks, no problem. Hallelujah. Thank God for modern medicine. But there is a lot of stuff that does go on in that extra month. And if you can, withhold it, and if you can stand it to wait that long, I think you will really see like the benefits of your baby being born. Like you said, Tatum being very sleepy. Well, she's still got a lot of brain development to go on to do. And Emerson being born, and like that was the same with Van. Like he was awake, he was looking around, he could hold his head up, like he was very much like ready to go.
Right.
And it, we had nothing to compare it to, but I could compare it to other babies that were born around the time that Van was born, when they weren't due near the time Van was due, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I think I even now I look at these babies and they're not up to speed, and I'm not judging. I really don't care what other people's kids do, but I notice a difference.
Right.
So, and I think that's important to talk about, because even if you've got that Wonder Weeks app, it goes off of the due date. And I think it does that for a reason. Like there's something to be said about that. So, your baby is 3 months old, they should be beginning to show the signs of rolling over, but your baby was due, you had your baby a month early. So are we focusing on that month gap where at 2 months old, your baby's not going to show signs of rolling over unless you got, an Olympic medalist or something? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, that was like the same thing. Like I know with Emerson, I didn't really know a lot about like the leaps, and I didn't have any of those apps, but I remember seeing like a lot of people like posting things on Facebook, like asking questions if what their kid was doing normal, or they're not doing this yet, is that normal? And I feel like once again we have that mom instinct. Like I just know after I had Tatum, I was like, why did I always question myself with Emerson? Why didn't I just trust myself? Like I knew nothing was wrong, but for some reason I'd start second guessing myself instead of trusting, like, no, she's fine. Everything's right on track. Like, and also I feel like it's weird sometimes that like people, anytime their baby changes, like as far as like sleeping or whatever it is, they like freak out like something's wrong, but like they're little humans, like they're gonna change. There's times where we are more sleepy some days than others, and when we eat more some days, and sometimes we can go all day without eating, and I feel like it's the same thing. So not to get so like freaked out every time your baby's schedule or their pattern changes. Like that's a good thing. I think that's like good that it's like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely, because that mother intuition is, most of us don't really like listen to our bodies or listen to our intuition. And right after you give birth, that mother's intuition is so strong. And whenever people are like, what's one bit of advice for new moms? I'm like, you're going to have a mother's intuition that kind of kicks in right after you give birth. Like listen to it, because if you stop listening to it and you start asking other people, like, what do I do? What do I do? You're going to lose that. Like, it's going to be faint, and you're not going to really like, you're going to constantly feel like you're trying to catch up. You don't know what to do. Like if you just listen to yourself, how do you feel about this? You'll be okay. Like you're going to make it through. And Nick and I, like I said before, even fathers have like this intuition, because, we dealt with this with Van, like when it came to breastfeeding, like I felt like something was wrong, or like we were supposed to be doing something, and we kept asking people, experienced people, like what we should do if this is right. And they're like, no, I'm not going to say like what it was, but they're like, no, you're fine. And then we go to the doctor and they're like, you should have been doing this. And we're like, we knew it. Like after that, we stopped asking people. We just listened to what we felt best. And it really has helped, because, when I'm talking about Van sleeping, like we bed share, and he nurses throughout the night, and Van weaned himself off of nursing throughout the night. And he did sleep through the night for a couple weeks until we hit a regression. And even when we, went through the regression, like I've heard all these horror stories. Like I'm just following this dude. Like I'm just following him. And I do a lot of research. Like, I'm nursing, so I'm on my phone pretty much all day long. And I think a lot of times there's almost too much information out there, because people just get so caught up in doing things the right way, or what should I be doing, or how should I be doing this. Even like bed sharing, like the sleep safe 7, like whatever it's called, like that's great. Do I follow that? No, I just trust my intuition
Right.
because I'm a first time mom, and I hate the saying survivor's bias because it's like, no, it's my intuition.
Right.
And I'm not going to follow like some poster. Like it's not a one size
Right.
fits all. And I
Right.
think that's the same when it comes to development. And if you just listen to your intuition, like you'll know when something's wrong. Like
Right.
you can tell. And a lot of the stuff that moms will write, and I said in other videos, like I'm a part of like literally like 20 different mom groups. I really am. So I see a lot of stuff. And some of the stuff that moms post is like, that something's wrong and that's why you're on this page.
Right.
So, like, kudos to you for knowing something's wrong. And then you also see stuff like, why isn't my newborn sleeping through the night?
Yeah, that
I'm
the,
gonna
the
go ahead and turn the comments off that one.
yeah.
You know better.
Well, that's like I just like think back to when, because Emerson and I, we bed share, even Tatum and I do now. But like I just remember, I always tell people like my advice for like any mom would be like to do things when you're ready. Like stop listening to what everybody else tells you that your child should be doing and what they need to do. Like, oh, your child needs to be in their own bed, sleeping through the night. No. Emerson slept in our bed until she was like 8 months. And I'm thinking, like, this is because everybody said, oh my gosh, you're going to have such a hard time getting her out of your bed. Oh my God, it's going to be. No, it was like so easy. And I was like,
did I do it wrong?
Yeah, I'm like, is everything okay? Does she hate me? Like, what?
She was like,
right. She's like, thank God.
hey, girl bed.
Yeah. But like it's just so funny that everybody like just because with their kids, like every baby's different, just because maybe you had a hard time getting your child to transition into their own bed doesn't mean that every single person is going to have a hard time. And just because maybe some people don't want their kids sleeping in their bed doesn't mean that like I don't mind it. I feel I'm more comfortable with it. That's what I want to do. I'm more comfortable with Tatum sleeping right next to me than sleeping in a bassinet. I want her right next to me, especially with her being so young. Once she gets older and I feel more comfortable with her being away, then it's fine. With Emerson, I know that there were a couple times that we tried to put her in her crib because everybody was like, oh, it's not gonna be good, whatever. So we tried it. And like the whole time I'm like staring at the monitor, like waiting for her, like,
To me,
and
you're not ready.
yeah. And as soon as she would wake up, I'd go in and get her and bring her into our bed. And I'm like, I'm not ready to do this. So I'm just gonna wait until I like want my bed back and want my space, and then we'll do it. And it was simple. It was like the easiest transition.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important to say because it's like not only you being ready, but also like the baby being ready and finding that happy medium and knowing your baby enough to trust them. And I
Right.
really, people
And
look
I
at me
think
sometimes
vice
when I say,
versa too, because I feel like your baby feels your energy of like, I don't really want you in your bed. I'm so scared. Rather than like when you are ready, they can feel like mommy is okay with this. Mommy feels good about this.
no
You know,
expectations, whatever
right,
happens, happens.
right,
We're doing it.
right. And that kind of I feel like maybe made, at least for my experience, maybe made Emerson like more okay with it because like mommy was okay with it. So
You're confident.
right, right.
That's a good point. And I feel like that's something that you experience with your first one and now your second one. It's like a whole different ball game. And I know people always say like your second one is as good as your first one without all the anxiety. Like
Yeah.
you get to do it without like second guessing yourself the whole
Right.
time.
Right.
And I do feel like I'm a little bit lucky because I've always had like an intuition that I've like felt and like known and listened to, and I did that through my pregnancy, and honestly that's just how I've coped with life, so I listen to that intuition a lot more than I think than a lot of first time moms, and I'm lucky because I can then share that with other people, like listen to that because it's going to help you more than you think. And
Right.
I think I want to say something about I personally don't really like the CDC, unpopular opinion, but I know a lot of people use that as like a gauge to
Right.
judge like where their children are at. And the CDC just recently changed all their guidelines, and I wanted to only bring it up mainly because a couple things. One, the CDC is a screening. Like, it's not like an end all be all test or anything like that. And I'm just talking about general knowledge. Obviously, I'm not a physical therapist or, you know, any expertise in that area. I'm just a mom that, you know, looks and reads shit. So that's pretty much my expertise. And I see a lot of stuff, and it changed from it being 50% of children. So, you know, by 3 months, your baby should be rolling over. That's 50% of children are doing that around this time. So if your child isn't showing the signs, now we can, you know, move forward to get more testing done. Well, they changed it to be 75%. And the 75% means that, okay, by, you know, 6 months old, now your kids are showing signs of rolling over, and 75% of children are doing that around this time. So if your child is not doing it, then maybe now, you know, we should look into further testing. So they really just broaden that percentage, and I guess made probably a lot of moms feel more better, like take some of the stress off of it. But the, you know, the other side of that would be that if your child does have an issue or, you know, needs to be seen, that early intervention piece has now been pushed back, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I think that was kind of the big argument, or the big, like, you know, frustration with them. But I get both sides, and at the end of the day, you do what you want.
Right.
Like that is just a guide to kind of help you. But as a mom, yeah, you do whatever you want, and you don't have to listen to that. And I think it's important to continue to say that so that other moms can kind of get that confidence if they don't already have it. And I saw this thing, and it was like, CDC stands for crawling doesn't count. Because if you saw that they took crawling out as a milestone, like, it doesn't matter now if your baby crawls or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was funny.
It's kind of funny too, because I know, like, some people, like, their kids, like, as soon as they started crawling, they, like, crawled for like a week and then were walking. So it is kind of like, does it really count? Does it matter?
I mean, your baby can do other things without crawling.
Right.
They can progress. It's not like it's not a nice, neat order. It's just.
And I also wonder what do they consider crawling? Because you got babies up on hands and knees crawling, but then you also got this baby doing an army crawl. Mm-hmm. So, like, is the army crawl count as crawling? Because I would.
Van does the sideways thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is he crawling? Are we hitting that early?
Oh. Okay.
I don't know, but I mean, even the belly roll thing, like, Van can sit up, but he can't roll over. So we just skipping that. Like, we're not doing that.
Rolling overs for babies. I'm gonna sit up.
And you know how he likes to stand. So Nick's like, oh, he getting ready to walk. Like, no, he's not.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to, like, talk about too, is when you have, like, mom friends who have kids that are close in age, I think it's also kind of hard not to compare, like, what their kid is doing versus what your kid is doing. But then, like, unless they're, like, the exact same age, I feel like you can't really compare. Like, like a whole 3-month gap or 6 month or 8 month, like, that's a big gap. So just like, for example, we talk about Emerson is, like, potty training, and she's picked up on it, and she's doing, like, really well with it, and she'll be 2 in May. So, but it's like other parents who have kids that are a couple months younger, like, that's a 3 months or 6 months or 8, that's a lot of time for your child to still develop. So don't feel like that pressure of, like, oh, if her kid's doing it, then my kid should be doing it too. Like, that doesn't mean anything. You know, your kid still has a lot of development to have in these next 3 months, and they'll do it when they're ready. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I was scared of potty training. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, it's gonna be so hard. And for us, it wasn't that hard, but I also think I waited until, like, Emerson was ready herself. Like, I did not push it. I did not make it a thing. I just let her, if she wanted to sit on the potty, I'd let her sit on the potty. I didn't make it, like, a traumatizing experience for her. If she, like,
for both of you.
Yeah. If she, like, cried, and, like, if I said, do you want to sit on the potty, and she said no, then we didn't sit on the potty. You know what I mean? I was never going to put her on the potty if she was crying, because no, then she's not going to want to sit on it. So it was always just like, do you want to go on the potty? No? Okay, well then we got to put a diaper on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, she picked it up really well, but I know she does gymnastics, and there's a little girl that's like a month younger than her, and her mom was like, I tried, and she's not like have any interest in it. And I'm like, that's fine. But this little girl also knows her letters. Emerson doesn't fucking know her letters. So it's like she's advanced in other areas, just not the potty. And
that goes back to that part, that mental
yeah.
piece and that physical piece. Like, okay, Emerson, like, you know, is using the potty. Generally, you could say she's pretty much potty trained, but your girl can't, you know, count to 10 or something like that.
Right,
you know what
right.
I mean?
She can't look at a letter and know what it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what, like, that's good. I'm impressed by that.
Mm-hmm.
There yet.
Mm-hmm. I think a couple things I wanted to say, and I want to go back to the 4-month sleep regression, only because I'm on the other side of it now. You know, Van is 5.5 months old. And I think this, while it's not considered like a milestone, it's a big deal because it's like something that most babies go through. Right. And the problem is that we have all these expectations on how things are supposed to be. We have this expectation on how my baby's supposed to sleep through the night, how many times he's supposed to nurse, when he should go to bed. Like, I have these expectations, and I'm not just saying, you know, me, but most people. And when they don't meet our expectations, now we're frustrated and we're upset. And, you know, aside from the, you know, fact that you're not getting as much sleep as you used to before, that's part of the package deal of having a baby in the house or an infant. But it's like we're getting upset because they're not doing what we think they should be doing. Like, who said that this is not supposed to be this way? Right. If we were all honest, like if everyone was just upfront and honest about how many times our baby wakes up in the middle of the night, I think that 4-month like dreaded sleep regression would just be you know, your baby just wakes up. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I just didn't have any expectations because same thing, like I've heard all these dreaded horror stories. Right. People literally scare you, but I had no expectations, and I'm just like, it just stopped. Like, yes, it got pretty bad, and every 2 hours we were waking up, but then it stopped getting that bad. You know what I mean? Like, I was just consistent and did what worked best for us. And now I'm on the other side of it. I'm like, okay, like,
well, that's so funny. I like, every time I see like somebody post like, oh, my baby slept through the night, or I got like a big 5-hour stretch, I'm like, I'm proud of you, but you just wait. Don't speak too soon, okay? Because like, I think a lot of moms are so like, which I don't know, like, I guess they are proud and they want to share like what their baby did, but like, just wait. Just give it a couple more weeks, because you're going to say that, and then the next night, I bet they were up all night, because that's what babies do.
No, seriously, Van weaned himself of night feedings for 2 weeks. He did not wake up. He would go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and wake up like that stir, like, you know, restless waking up from like 6, and then he would wake up at 9. Okay. I was feeling lucky. Like, I was like, my baby sleeping through the night.
You about to post it on Facebook. You was about
I
to make
bragging, but boom, he was up every 2 hours, and I was like, oh no, oh no, because it was like a little early, because it was like 3.5 months, and I was like,
yeah.
So I definitely think that you know, it's just depends on the baby, but again, like, no expectations. I didn't even know, and I'm guilty of this, but I don't really know what the milestones are that your baby like supposed to be doing stuff. Like, when, like, he's going to be 6 months, like what should he be doing right now?
You know, like, the Googling, I was like, at 6 months, what should my baby be doing? Whatever it said, I was like, okay, let's see.
Check.
Yeah.
Rolling over. Okay, we're working on it. We did it one time. Is that enough to cross it off the list?
Yeah, just check it off. You know what? Just cross it out. We're just gonna skip it.
I think that okay, so then you know, that regression is the one thing, but also like the expectations for when your baby's supposed to do stuff. So like when you're talking about the potty training thing, like Emerson's almost going to be a year old in May, and she's pretty much potty trained, and you just started it like last month, right? So had you started it like 4 months ago, it could have been way harder. Like, now you're getting frustrated there. Emerson, why aren't you using the restroom? Like, I know you know how to do this. Maybe she did it once or twice, and now you know that she can do it. And now you know you're both getting frustrated.
Right.
And it's like, okay, stop and come back to it.
Right. That's what, like when Emerson she probably was showing signs at before 18 months, but I knew I was due with Tatum at 18 months. So I was like, I'm not going to push her to potty train. And then I Sissy home and she sees me changing Sissy's diapers. And then all of a sudden she wants to regress and be in diapers again. So I just kind of waited and I let her really, and I mean, like, I asked her and that was it. I did not ever force her to sit on the potty. I never set a timer and said, let's go sit on the potty. Like, I just let her do her thing. Luckily, and I was honestly surprised when I brought Tatum home. I thought for sure that she was going to be all about wanting to be a baby. But luckily I didn't have any of that. So shortly after she picked it up. But yeah, it was definitely like your kid will do when. And another thing, I feel like when we pressure our kids to do something, then they want to do it less. So if we act like we don't give a shit what they do, then they're going to do it. Act like you don't care that van's not rolling over. And I bet you he's going to be like, oh, I'm going to show you. And then he's going to be going.
Look, I unpopular opinion, please don't call CPS on me, but I be leaving my baby in the changing table so I can go to the bathroom. He don't roll over, so
he's stuck. You're a big thump one day and you're going to be like, oh, he got it.
If he hits the ground, it's going to be a celebration. Oh, you rolling over now, huh? Like I said, don't call the cops on me. You got to do what you got to do, okay?
Yeah. Maybe that's what he knows, that he's not supposed to roll over in the changing table, so he's just not going to do it at all. He's just going to be like laying there.
Not to do it.
Yeah. I don't do it, so.
I'm just saying. I think I don't know. If you, like you said, if you just like act like you don't care, or not that you don't care, but you're not worried about it.
Right. You're not putting that pressure on them to do something.
Van slept in the bassinet for about a month, and that was not forced at all. It was just, he just seemed uncomfortable laying next to me. So I put him in the bassinet, and my boy was sleeping in it, doing real good. And that worked up until that sleep regression. That's when he stopped and he came back into the bed with us. And I even sidecarred his crib, and I put him in the sidecar, and he did not like it. Like, he just kept waking up. And it's like, okay, you're not ready for this. Like, I'm not saying my kid is hopeless and I'm never going to try it again. He just wasn't ready to do that. He slept in a bassinet, no problem. I know that he can sleep without me, but currently that's not where he's at right now. So I feel like the same thing with getting the baby out of the bed or crawling or any milestone. Like you said, you can offer it and you can try it. Like I've been working with Van. When I realized, Van kind of needs to roll over soon, I started working with him for 3 days. And on the third day, I told you, he rolled over that one time. And I was like, I just worked with him for 3 days. Yeah. And that's all it took. I don't work with him anymore because, he gets tons of tummy time and stuff like that. But I was doing like specific movements. Because I'm like, he can do it. This is a prime example that I don't need to worry about it. I got caught up in looking at what I should be doing and looking at Instagram and what everyone else's kids are doing. And I started to panic a little bit, and I'm human and we all do it. But when he rolled over, it just brought me back. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you look at my kid, he's good. He's fine. Exactly.
Yeah. As far as other, like, he's playing with toys, he's engaging with you and doing everything. How it is with Tatum. Like, I'll sit on the floor sometimes and, help her and do all the things with her. But I know she's going to do it when she's ready. And she's done it a couple times. She's done it a handful of times, but I think she's kind of just lazy and she just doesn't. And also she doesn't really enjoy being on her belly. So like, even sleeping, she sleeps right on her back with her arms up. Like, you know what I mean?
She does. Yeah.
And I remember Emerson's a belly sleeper. Like, that is the thing that I learned real quick. Everybody's like, you need to, even I told my pediatrician that she slept on her belly and she was like, oh no, you need to train her to sleep on her back. No, I'm not, because she sleeps all night on her belly, and she stays asleep. So that's where I'm going to put her. I mean, obviously she could like roll over at this point. It wasn't like a newborn laying on her belly, but I've done it. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, Van, there was a good couple weeks Van was a belly
Yeah.
sleeper. I don't feel inclined to tell people my business anyway.
Right.
And even at that point, like I'm still back and forth between pediatricians because they just don't do what
Right.
I want them to do. So I already have that issue with doctors. So it's just like none of my business, or
Right.
it's none of their business.
Yeah.
And I just don't share my business. But
Mhm.
he did sleep on his stomach. And the same thing, like, girl, I got postpartum anxiety. I can tell you for a number one fact, I can put my baby in a position where he gonna die.
Right. That's how I feel too. I'm like, I'm not gonna, if I don't feel comfortable doing this, I'm not going to do it. That's the same thing with anything. Even Emerson now, like, if I don't feel comfortable with her doing something, I'm not gonna let her do it. You know, I just, yeah, it's
You think I'm taking my off this
be,
baby? You think I'm sleeping through the night? You think
Yeah.
anything?
Right.
You think that baby goes 30 seconds without me thinking about it? No.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember with Emerson, like you were saying, Van slept in the bassinet. Emerson, I always felt like the pressure to like get her to sleep in her bassinet because God forbid you told somebody that your baby slept in the bed with you. Like it would be like a, oh my God. Now I don't give a shit. And I'll be like, oh no, they sleep right in bed with me. But like I always felt the pressure to get her to sleep in her bassinet. And as soon as I'd put her in her bassinet, she would literally wake right up. At some point when she started to stand up, she would stand up and try to climb back into the bed with us. So I'm like,
This ain't it.
no, because I'm stressed thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to get her to sleep. Then she'd wake up and I'd rock her back to sleep and try to lay her back down, trying to lay down a sleeping baby. Whew, no, not a good time. Okay. Trying to lay her down without waking her up. And then I creep into bed. And then as soon as I get nestled in, she said, so we're not doing it. Okay. We're not doing it.
I can relate, for real. I think that's why it's like whatever works best with your family. We shouldn't ever be like saying no. Like when did I don't want to go on that page, but I just feel like doctors, like they just why it's not, like I said, it's not a one size fits all. So
Right.
a couple things have happened, and so the moms that have like rolled over on their baby or something, like whatever the reason they say like, oh, you shouldn't bed share, like what's happening to
Right.
where now all of a sudden nobody's allowed to do that.
But also, I thought I read somewhere that like we're the only place that like doesn't co-sleep and like are like and like bed share. Like other countries, they're like they don't. That's as soon as they bring their baby is literally on them all the time. They carry their baby around. They're constantly like we're the only one that's like, no, you need to put your baby in a.
Our babies need to be independent from birth.
Right. Right. And that's also so weird to me because I'm thinking I literally grew this child and carried them for 9 months, and then all of a sudden they're supposed to like be
Sleep across the room
right and just like be okay with
through
that.
the night.
Yeah, they're supposed to sleep through the night by themselves without me near. What? No. No. That don't sit right with me. I ain't doing it.
I think if we all like kind of listen to our intuition, none of us would be like, yeah, that does kind of be weird. Right. And I told my sister's being induced next week. I said, she's being induced next week. And I gave her my bassinet. Like, here's a bassinet. You have it if you want to use it. Trust your intuition, whatever you feel inclined to do. I had the bassinet because I was like, we're going to do bassinet. I'm going to try not to bed share. I just see a lot of negative stuff about it. The same old, same old. The baby was born and I was like,
you want me to do what?
Like, I looked at that bassinet like it was below us. Like, you got to get that thing out of here.
My baby.
This baby ain't going anywhere. I mean, it's true. It's just like.
But I do know some moms that I have like a friend who like she knew that like she needed to get her son in the bassinet. Like he could not sleep in her bed with her. She knew how she was as like a sleeper. And like that's fine if you want to put your baby. We're not saying like, oh my gosh, how dare you? Once again, it's whatever you are comfortable with, whatever works best for you. And I always say like you and your baby, but like I also feel like at the end of the day, us moms have to do what's best for us. You know what I mean? Like if we don't think the baby, like when I had Emerson, I did not think I was going to bed share with her. I thought for sure there's a lot of things that I never thought I was going to do with Emerson that I did. So that's good. Like don't ever say that you're never going to do something because you're probably going to do it. But yeah, you just have to, and that's another thing I wanted to bring up too, is like, as far as your baby, and like everyone's like, oh, they need to, there's such a thing like your baby needs to go to bed at this time, and like it's weird to me because it's like I feel like your child should get used to how your household runs.
Mm-hmm.
So like I know some people, they work later, they don't get home till later, so they're really can't go to bed at 6:30 or 7:30 because they're just getting home, so they have a later bedtime. That's okay. Your child is going to adapt to their environment, and as long as it works for you, who cares?
Girl, my friend has twins and she works full time. Her twins are in daycare. She gets them up at like 6. I said, 6?
Not
I was grossed out. It's not, I mean, that's just their lifestyle. But
right.
I was thinking, me, like, Van literally wakes up at 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
at 9:30, sometimes, like, at least once a week, I gotta wake him up. Like,
Right.
you gotta get up, boy. It's 9:30.
Yeah.
So I'm, like, lucky.
Right.
But I just thought, I'm like, damn, they had it rough out there. I'm very lucky.
Bedtime, we don't play no games, okay? If it's bedtime, you need to lay down and go to bed because mommy is done, okay? 7:30 sharp. Lay down, go to sleep, and I don't want to see your ass out of bed until 8 o'clock, okay?
You talking like that now? She trained.
No, literally, because she climbs out of her crib now, and I'm like, no, I literally, it'll be 7:30, and I'll take her ass right into bed and be like, it's not time to get up yet. You gotta go back to sleep. Mommy's not getting up at 7:30. And then I hear some moms that are like, oh, my kids are up at 6. And I'm like, I'm so sorry for complaining that my child is up at 7:30 or even 8.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right. So hold on. I wanted to bring something up. So I follow this page. It's called Milestones in Motherhood on Instagram. So if anyone is ever curious about milestones and stuff like that, or a first time mom, someone sent me this page, and I think it's really good because if you're like me and you want to like work with your baby, like doesn't Tatum have something like wrong with her?
Yeah. She has like a little bit of torticollis.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to, well, they actually like just called the other day to kind of like just ask some questions about her development. And as I was like talking to the lady, she was like, oh, is she doing this? Because I think torticollis can kind of like affect their development in other areas as well. But they were asking like, oh, can she move her head side to side? Does she look at you? Can she like engage with you, like smile? Can she reach for toys and all that stuff? And she was doing all the things that
Mm-hmm.
is like supposed to. So they didn't really seem too concerned about her having it. But yeah, she'll still get like evaluated to see if they need to like do something. I think at this point it's just kind of like doing the stretches to get it straightened out. I don't think there's any other like developmental issues coming with it.
I sent you something about she's a physical therapist. Like she is a pediatric physical therapist. She has her doctorates in it. She's very educated and she posts stuff that's very digestible. And I'm maybe even, if I have a second, if I can multitask, I'll even put it in the chat, the link, because I just feel like it's super helpful because, even if like for me, I did want to work with Van a little bit. I stay home. I have that extra time to, do a little bit of exercises with him to help him roll over. So, I did that for 3 days and the kid rolled over. So I think if your baby's like right there, like Van, the problem is his arms, like he pushes up and he gets like so angry and I just feel like he doesn't know what to do with that arm.
Right.
So I think if you see your baby is right there and you want to help them a little bit, this would be a good resource to have because there's absolutely nothing wrong with encouraging your baby or like teaching them, especially now, like we're, doing, introducing the baby-led weaning. So like I sit him on my lap when I eat, not by choice, but I sit him on my lap when I eat and like he sees me eating and like now he like tries to reach for my food.
That's how it was for
like,
Emily. We sat her in our high chair and like did all that. Even I do that with Tatum now just so she can see. Kids really do pay attention to you. And that's what I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but I've heard some people say like, oh, they don't know. They don't know. I don't know about your baby, but my baby knows. And both of them, they know what's up. Okay. They know, they watch my every move. Like they're really watching what you're doing. same thing, like, when I, like, feed Emerson or even Tatum, like, I'd always open my mouth and, like, if I was to give them a bite, because then they're gonna mimic that. They're gonna follow your lead when you're doing
Mhm.
something. But, there was something else that I wanted to Oh, I was gonna say how you were saying that you like to, like, get down on the floor and, like, work with Van. I know, like, with Emerson, I she was my only child. I had all the time in the world to
Mhm.
sit there and give her my attention and do things with her, and I don't know if maybe I don't think that's why she picked up things so quick, but it could be, like, why she started doing things so early. But I noticed with Tatum, I don't have that same time because and still takes up a lot of my attention because we're getting into the terrible twos and it's been a wild ride, okay? Not having fun. But I don't have that same attention to give to Tatum. So I'm trying to get better at it and like giving her more time to like help her get her legs over. And I think I have noticed like her rolling to her side more and she can kind of get that leg just in the right spot to get her kind of going.
Mhm.
But
I
yeah,
think I think you offer a good perspective because like two things. One, like seeing how like you said you had all the time in the world to help Emerson, like, you literally should your undivided
right.
attention. Oh, I noticed right away, like, oh, she's, getting to the point of crawling. So I'm going to keep prompting her, or I'm going to keep putting toys in front of her. And with Tatum, like, you're busy. Like, you have Emerson, who
Yeah,
is a handful. She's independent, but that still means you got to watch her. So it's not really
right.
like you're independent. And it's like, okay, so is that taking away from how quickly Tatum is going to learn and develop and get to do things? Or, on the other side of things, she's watching Emerson do all this
Right.
stuff. She's hearing Emerson talk and she's watching Emerson walk and even crawl or,
Mhm.
just play on the floor. Like, is that more beneficial where Van, he just watches the dog chew the bone all day long. Like, is my kid, maybe that's why my kid likes toys
Yeah,
so much because
that's
he
fine.
watches the dogs do it.
Yeah, another thing too is, like, also because Tatum has an older sibling, there might be some things that I have to, like, tell Emerson because I don't know if you saw my video of Emerson helping Tatum roll over. The aggressive video of her helping her roll over. But I have to tell Emerson, like, let Sissy do it. Like, you need to let Sissy do it by herself because they want to help. And then that's not going to help Tatum learn if Sissy's always bringing her a toy instead of making her try to get it or rolling her over instead of making her try to do it herself. So I think that's also like a difference I've seen is Emerson had to do things like by herself. She didn't, besides us, but I just sat there and was like, you got to figure it out, sis. But Emerson wants to help Sissy, which is great. But there are times where I have to tell her, like, no, Sissy needs to learn how to do it by herself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think,
I mean,
especially as they get older, I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see as far as like Tatum. Like, is she going to start walking around the same time as Emerson because she's trying to keep up with her sister? Or is she just going to be chilling because Sissy's going to bring her whatever she wants? But I
it's
also,
funny that you said that because I have a girl that I work with that she has one older boy and then the other boy's a little bit younger, and they're getting him evaluated for speech because she said, like, we just all speak for him, like
right,
the older brother be like, there's just
yeah,
so much commotion that he almost like gets like lost in the sauce, so they're
right,
just speaking for him. And so it's not that he doesn't know how to speak, it's, they need that like delay, you know what
right,
I mean, they need those extra seconds to process it and then say what they want to say. But it's just such a fast pace because
right,
the older one already knows how to do it and we can just get it done.
right, right,
And I don't think you're like alone in that. And even you're lucky and grateful that you get to stay home and have you get to take a little bit more
right.
slower time and be like, no, Emerson. But those moms that have to work or even in a daycare or whatever the
Don't
situation
get
is.
that same
Mhm.
attention. Uh,
Mm-hmm. And what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
you can do stuff in the moment, but realistically, we just kind of hope for the best and do what we can. But I think that's a big concern and maybe where a lot of insecurity probably comes in when we're talking about what our babies are or aren't doing
right.
is our lifestyle. And I know a lot of people don't choose the way that you can't control everything. You know what I
Right.
mean? And my friend I told you her 2 boys are 8 months old, but they're developmentally 6 months old. So they're right around they're right around the same as Van, but they can roll over really well. And, she said, well, babies learn, you know, being with other babies. So I have been trying to get her to come over because she's
Yeah.
got 2 of them. I'm like, you got to teach my kid how to roll over.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, this goes back to like us being like a community and like building up our community of like-minded moms and
Right.
similar age children so that they can learn from each other. And I'm not about to go out and have another kid just so Van learns, Van could teach him stuff. Like I'm just not doing that. Okay.
Well, that's like another thing. Like that's a good point. Is like, a lot of moms, how we always feel like you can fall into feeling in like a competition with other moms on why they're kids, and instead of like feeling like, oh, well, their babies are rolling over and mine's not, you like took advantage of that and was like, you're gonna come over and teach my baby how to do it because he's not really understanding. Okay.
Or like I'm gonna wait till Tatum's potty trained and then you can like let me know.
Yeah.
You just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I think that makes a good point. I don't know. I just feel like, I said it earlier, but comparison is the thief of joy. And what it's like having that first child and just like really just being in awe at everything that they're doing and watching them, grow. And like I just said today, like Van is just babbling so much more than he was last week. And in the mornings when he wakes up, he gets up between 8:30 and 9:30, and Nick and I will kind of just lay there with our eyes closed. Like I let him do that, like babble talk for a good 15-20 minutes sometimes just by himself, because I think
Yeah.
it's really beneficial for him. And just seeing that, happen is just, it's very comforting, and it's amazing to watch. And I could ruin that by every day being like, all right, today's the day we're going to roll over. Let's practice rolling over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like focusing on what he's not doing instead of, just being very like happy and excited to see what he's already doing and what he's soon going to do. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely crazy, like how quickly I remember like just being in such amazement of like everything Emerson did. Like she'd do the simplest stuff and I'm like, how did she know how to do that? That's great. I'm like, calm down. But it really is like everything they do. And they sometimes like she would learn things like how to do something. And I'm like, how does she know how to do, like they'll start doing stuff and you're like, how do they know how to do that? And because they're watching you, like they are watching your every move. They know, like it's crazy. The older they get and once they start moving around and start crawling and walking, it is really like just amazing all the things that they learn on their own, but really it's just from watching you.
Those mirror neurons.
Yep.
Neurons. But well, I feel like we did like a good realistic like conversation about what our babies should be doing and what they're really doing. And I think if we all can just agree to stop putting so much pressure on these guidelines that God knows who, where they decided that, all of a sudden your baby needs to roll over. And if we just, the expectations, like if we just stop putting expectations not only on ourselves but also on our children, I think that we would enjoy motherhood and parenting a lot more.
Right.
And feel less rushed. They always say like, the nights are long but the days go by fast, and it's true. The time does go by so fast, and I'm really taking this time to like soak it up and enjoy it. And I almost like want to like slap myself on the wrist when I catch myself comparing my baby to someone else's, or just trying to rush them along. So I think if I took anything away from it is like just reiterating, like even hearing hearing how Emerson's like way ahead of the curve and Tatum's like, just chilling, kind of hanging back behind the curve. And it's like, yeah, but who said what? Like, what's it matter now?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I don't know. That's what I took away from it. So
Yeah.
I feel like you had a good perspective, but
Yep.
but yeah, thanks for everyone for participating, and I love to hear in the chat below or in the comment section like anything that you feel like you got out of the conversation today, and if you agree that you know, if we can all just slow down and not compare, or, you know, not
Stop
compare,
rushing.
but
It like it's so funny we talk about like, oh my god, it flies by so fast, motherhood, like they just grow up so quickly, but then also here we are trying to like rush them to do things. Like just enjoy the time
be
and
in the moment.
yeah.
I agree. But
Mhm.
all right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Mm.